My name is Stef, and this is the Dead Man Walking Podcast. Welcome to the show. Thanks for checking this out. Now let's get right into it. My guest today is Ali Ziaei. He's a professional fighter that represented Canada in the past. He's a trainer, and he's the co-founder of Sapien Evolution Temple. And their main purpose is to align the mind, body, and soul using ancient wisdom and modern science. There's three things that I really took away from this episode. The first thing was a story about his dad and how that influenced him to make change and to bring change to a community. The second thing was the way he discovered himself again through a bad time, and then how it helped him propel to the future to find out, to remember kind of who he really was. And the third is his vision about the future of this business. I had a great time with Ali, and if you like the show, if you want to support the show, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, follow on Instagram and Facebook, and that's it. Hope you enjoy it. See you later. Ali, I'm really happy you're here today because I met Katerina.
Yeah.
Katerina is the one that told me about you. I met her at an event from my buddy Kyle from OIR Records. And, you know, next thing you know, meet you and then hear this awesome story about how someone really believes in a concept. And after watching the videos and after, you know, just kind of doing a bit of research on you, it's pretty awesome to see what you're doing here in the city and how you're helping people. So, you know, I'll pass it to you in a sense. If there's anything you want to start with before we...
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to see where this goes and you know what we talk about. I didn't really prepare much. I was like, I'm just gonna go with the flow.
You didn't prepare. You didn't come here. No, dude, this is meant to be that. It's meant to be really about you. And sometimes people don't do this often, to take the time to actually talk about how this started, how, you know, we don't usually, we're always in the grind. We're always working on something that you don't really take the time to realize what the fuck is going on sometimes.
Yeah, I've had to take the time sometimes to like people are like, how did you get into this? And I'm like,
I don't know.
How did I get into this? You know?
That's what we try to do here is like, I always found whenever you see somebody doing something, I always like how the hell did it start? Because this is where it is now, and this is all the things people see, and, you know, this is what we post, and this is what we want people to know about us. But, you know, that first time you even thought about putting this together is usually the part that not many people know about, and most people can learn from that. And that's, I think, the most important thing about the show is really that people can feel like they're learning something through every conversation. Yeah. So, you know, maybe we'll start off with what you're actually working on right now, because I see there's Sapien Evolution, Movemental. I don't know if that's just the name of
this is my
I wasn't sure if that was like
Instagram
another
handle.
company. Okay. And
No.
So maybe if you want to dive into that.
I'm a founder of a company called Sapien Evolution Temple, and basically it's focused on corrective exercise, posture, breathing, and biomechanics. So, and it came about a year ago. Started putting it together, and just you know, it's to basically fill the void of what I saw we lack in the fitness industry. You know, which is, you know, focus on the very, very basics of the human, of the foundations of being human. You know, that is with breathing, with your posture and the way we move. And then, you know, from that it evolved, and, you know, it all started long time ago, you know, when I was a fighter. I used to fight in a sport called Sanshao, which is basically kickboxing and wrestling combined.
Okay.
And it's like a form of kung fu.
Okay.
And I was on Team Canada, and I was fighting, and I started doing Muay Thai, and I just wanted to become better and better. And I was getting, as I became, you know, better, people started hiring me to train them. And as that was happening, people's ability, I realized that, you know, not everyone's abilities are like mine, you know, like, and so I always had to bring it to a lower level and lower and lower and lower, to a point now where people come in and I got 3 steps going into my studio, and people can't even go down those 3 steps. I have to hold their hand and assist them to go down, you know, and, you know, within months, they're able to do all the things easily and with
Well,
comfort.
I remember when we spoke a few weeks back when we were trying to organize like some time together to find, for some time for you to come in. You were talking about that you were also experiencing a lot of injuries yourself, and kind of like it was that almost that self discovery, like what the fuck, I'm getting injured here. How
Yeah,
can I avoid this? Am I doing something wrong? And it usually tends to start with that, is like my own body is not is feeling like shit.
yeah,
So
a hundred
maybe I
percent.
need to find an answer for me first. You know?
Absolutely, yeah. So, as a fighter, you always want to become better, and because it's a like they say, you don't play fighting. It's really, uh, you're getting punched in the face. So you want to be the best version of yourself.
Well, yeah, it's not even just for your best. It's like you got to protect your own fucking face. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you
exactly.
look pretty, dude. You don't want to come
E-
up with a broken
Exactly.
nose.
Yeah. So it's so and so you're like, okay, aside from fighting, what are some, aside from going to my gym and training, what are some other things that I can do? And you know, I was like, okay, weight training, strength and conditioning, and so I got into that, and I've through these things, obviously fighting is a contact sport, so you get injured from that as
Yeah.
well, but a lot of times I realized that I was getting slower, I was getting um m- getting injured, easily, like shoulder, lower back, knees, getting problems as and I'm trying to get better, but I go to the gym and trying to do weights, I'm getting injured. So I
Excuse me.
realized that this is like I need to figure out what's the best way. And that, yeah, so a lot of times it was trying to get better without injuring myself, also to recover from my own injuries, from my
Yeah.
own things. And it all went hand in hand to, like, now what I use is, the techniques that I use are all kind of stemmed from that, from realizing, I can't, like, a lot of the stuff that we're told to go to the gym and do um are not helping me become a better mover, m- uh, better fighter,
Yeah. Well,
you
it
know.
kind of starts feeling like maybe these answers are good on the general, but as someone starts really digging in, then there has to be something a little more unique to your own body. But at the same time, I think what I like about what I noticed on your page is that the basic thing is that they're human things that you're doing. So it's not a just male or female. It's a human movement.
Yeah.
So I see you like I saw one. It gave me Rocky Four vibes. Of I think you were cutting a piece of wood or something like that. And you just
Mm.
threw this fucking axe in the air. You caught it, boom, and you killed it in one shot.
Yeah.
And all I was waiting for was Ivan Drago in his Russian,
Yeah.
sports training complex. And I'm just looking at it, and I think there's a lot of stuff that when we look back at how kind of humans in general move, a lot of those things we're not doing today. We're sitting
Hmm.
down in front of a computer a lot of the day, or we're not even walking anymore.
Yeah.
Everything, there's some sort of vehicle that's taking us there. So those basic movements of walking, just chopping wood and carrying stuff, was in a sense a workout all day, 8 hours a day,
Yeah.
of just getting your shit together. You know what I mean? Nothing more than just what you needed to do to eat or to take care of your family or to do something. So
Yeah.
all those things are gone, and we're trying to condense it all in 1 hour of a workout, which ultimately always feels like, of course, an injury is going to happen.
Hmm.
Um, it's so strenuous on the body within that hour, whether it's a hit training, body training, whatever, strength training, that your body doesn't have the whole day to warm up and to kind of get used to
Hmm.
those movements and just more natural movement.
Yeah, and the thing is also, like, so when you're working in a farm, right? Like, there is your movement, it is multi-dimensional. There's different vectors, things are coming, you're doing things in different places. You're not always thinking about, like when you go to the gym, you're only lifting linearly, and
Yeah,
and nothing in life is linear,
exactly.
like whether it's you know just life problems, or is the way you move your body. None of it is really linear, so it's hard to say that, like, linear movement translates to real life. And what I try to do in my movement practice is try to target my body from all the different dimensions, from with all the different vectors, so that I'm not stuck in this in this one, like, you go to the gym, you're either pushing your weights overhead or in front of you,
Yeah.
or you're doing squat. Everything is just like in this one plane of motion. Whereas, the training that I do now, it targets, it's like things go in circulars, things circle around you and in front of you, and your body moves in all these different dimensions. I ask people, how many times do you, when you go to the gym, do you step?
Yeah.
Like something that we do, like a normal person uh goes between 5,000 to 10,000 steps a day,
Yeah.
right? It's
And you're
like
not moving once in that whole training.
yeah, you're just standing in one place
Yeah.
and pushing weights in different, like, whatever, putting it on your back or whatever it is. And it's like, oh, it's like, this is making me stronger, but is it actually making you stronger in real life? Maybe it's
Yeah.
making you stronger in this,
Yeah.
and there's something, one of the first things that I realized, it's like, why am I doing this? And it's like, it's making me really good at going to the gym.
Well, you see that question, usually that's the spark, right?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? But what was going on in your mind to even think of that question? Because you're so used to someone telling you show up to the gym, just do the gym, and you've been training your whole life, so you show up to the gym and you show up to the gym. But then all of a sudden you had something that just kind of said, "What the fuck is going on? Like something is not right here." What happened?
It was mostly because I realized that I'm not getting answers from what I'm doing.
What were the questions though? Like what? Like what? You
Like
said I'm not getting answers.
it's like,
But
well, becoming a better fighter.
okay,
Ultimately, and also helping my clients. From since I was 19, people were hiring me to train them.
okay,
And like, and it's like, I do this, and then they end up getting injured, or I'm getting injured, and it's like, well, there's something wrong here.
yeah, something's missing.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, why do I do squats? Right? It's like, it's for this and this and this, and it's like, is it really? And then so you just kind of need to go deeper and deeper and ask yourself, is it real? Like, this is what I've been told, but is it really that? And it's like, you got to think critically to realize, okay, like, this doesn't really translate to anything in real life that I do. Like, like the video you talked about, I was like carrying logs and stuff like that. There's no point in that whole day that I was doing that did I put something in like a barbell squat behind my
Yeah.
back kind of position.
Not standing perfectly.
Yeah,
to-
with a bar, which
Yeah.
which also is like, all these are all different variables that you need to take into account. If I'm picking up heavy weights, I'm usually hugging around them, and that
Yeah.
puts my spine in a very specific situation
Yeah.
that a bar would not, right?
Well, it's funny, like I was thinking about it, doing workouts and all this stuff. And then when there was all the snow that fell,
Mm-hmm.
the workout that I had was I had to clean out that whole fucking alley in the back because the city doesn't pass. So that was like, you realize you're bending over, you're pulling up, you're lifting, you're doing all these things. That's like one of the best workouts I've had
Yeah.
in a long time, of like 2 hours of straight shoveling.
Yeah.
Doing that like twice a day for 3 days was absolutely insane. But I felt my body feel so strong at the end of it that I'm like, no gym class or no training session I've ever done has ever made my body, from legs, arms, my back, everything. I felt like after a shower, you feel also something naturally. I think maybe because you're doing something with your body, or when you're outside in nature, there's just something that feels like you connected somehow. That a gym just, it doesn't have that.
Yeah, all of that are factors.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
find that there's something that breathing the air outside, there's that crisp cold feeling. There's something about it, that the breathing, and I saw that that's something that's also part of a lot of the regimen that you're talking about, is like the breathing and just the biometrics, and you're just looking at the way your body moves in a natural situation, and how
Exactly.
strong it gets in that situation without having to go to a specific routine at the gym.
Exactly. And so it's all actually about moving your body in the way it's meant to move. Like, if you look at sports, like say baseball, tennis, ping pong, all the racket sports,
I would have never expected
golf.
ping pong.
But these are all like, your body's all like shoveling snow, and a ping pong, like a shot, and I don't know what they're actually called, but like,
Yeah.
striking the ball with a ping pong racket, it's a very similar movement. Your body's moving in a very similar way. And if you look at all sports other than Olympic weightlifting or like gymnastics, most of the sports in the Olympics require your body to move in a very similar way. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when you throw a ball, whether you're throwing it overhand or like a football or a basketball, like all of these are using your body in a very,
Mm-hmm.
very specific way that is that are very similar to one another.
Yeah.
You know, and this is one of the realizations that I had because I was a fighter. So, you know, throwing a punch, and then I went golfing just with a couple of my buddies. This is when I was like 21 maybe. And I realized, oh, the
The swing.
cross
Okay.
and the swing are so similar to each other, and
Yeah.
it just came naturally to me because I was thinking about throwing across as opposed to, like, you know, a lot of people try to force the golf swing,
Yeah.
and it's like, you know, and this happens in boxing as well when I'm training people to box and they're like trying to power it. It's like, no, 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 try to feel your body, try to feel that elasticity in your body,
Yeah.
right? So then I was like, oh my god, like these, like our body moves in very similar in very specific ways, and that's why all the sports are kind of designed, or
Mm-hmm.
like they just
Around the
happen to
body
be.
movement.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
and they
when,
add a ball to it, but the
yeah,
body movement is, a different size ball or whatever it is, but they're focused with your feet or with your hands,
yeah,
but ultimately it's the same similar
yeah,
movement.
where your body, like, think of your body as an X, right?
Yeah.
So opposite limb to opposite limb, and when you throw a ball, you're using your left and your right limb to. When you're shoveling snow, you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
When you're playing hockey and hitting a shot, like it's the same exact thing, right?
So now, you see this, you start noticing that there's this similarity. You start noticing that it's helping you. How did you start finally maybe making that step towards of like, wow, this could be its own thing now. Like I can create something of a business, but at the same time connected where it's really authentic too, right? And you're keeping that because I saw the like even the videos and everything. It's you, man. Like it's you and I think your partner Pascal or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm looking at the setup of how you guys are organizing things, and it's done very well. It's very clean. It's also understandable, and I think what I liked about it is that you're explaining what it is and the types of things you can see from this. And I think a lot of times everyone's just always about a six pack, and you're not about the six pack. You're about making your body feel amazing in doing these natural things that you could do at home. The same way you come here to our center and you work. I think it's in Griffintown,
Yeah.
and you guys come by, and so I really like the approach of how you're doing that. But there's that. It seems like there was a lot of work that was also put into that.
Yeah,
Of
a lot of learning.
a lot of learning too. So
Yeah.
how did that step go from I'm going to train, well, I'm going to learn this to be better at myself, for myself, bring this to clients, but then all of a sudden start a business now out of this with a location like that,
Mhm.
that evolution, if you want to call it. How did
So,
that start?
well, I was lucky to have clients that completely trust me. So I was able to
Step one.
yeah. So I was able to experiment, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of times I mean, I was doing it on myself, you know. I was learning on myself, and then because this is something, there are other people who are doing it. I'm not the only one in the world, but it's not something that's been studied. Like, you know, when you look at a scientific study,
Yeah.
they're usually testing people's squats and stuff that I don't do,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's not, you can't really find any literature per se on it, like in terms of, well, like, because I get this a lot actually. It's like, where is the scientific study behind this? You know,
Yeah.
like, show me proof that it, and then, like, a lot of times you can't, but a lot of times it's just common sense. You know what I mean?
And that's what it is, that you're not doing a study on common sense because you
Yeah.
figure your body is like this. But
Yeah.
I mean, the clients are also the proof, right? At a certain point.
Exactly. So and that's exactly it. That's like, first of all, results. If I'm big on results. If you're not showing me results, then it's just like, and like a lot of times trainers, they would do it on themselves, but then they're not able to replicate it, which is
Yeah.
also really important. But s- what I did was I had a bunch of clients that I was able to test on,
Yeah.
and, like, you know, this test continues, and I'm still testing and I'm still learning. I haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, probably, I don't even know how, what, very low percentage of way there, you know. But what I was lucky about is that there were people who trusted me enough to allow me to test this, the things that I've learned, or things that I'm learning. And so that's the scientific process, right? Like, I test, and it's like, okay, we've got this problem. I define the problem. Like, say for example, I deal a lot with people's posture. Say for example, I have like a pelvis that's tilted too far to the right or left. It's like, okay, we've got this problem. What are some solutions that I have for it? And then we test. It's like, okay, which
Yeah.
one works best? That's my scientific process. And well, it's the scientific process. That's how science works,
It's
right?
always about testing something, looking at the results, testing it again in
Yeah,
different
and then
contexts
being
and
able to
see.
replicate it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also the data tells you at a certain point, if I keep on doing this and multiple people, women, men, different age groups, they're seeing success on this, well, there's got to be something fucking here then. Ultimately, there's got to be
Exactly.
something here that we're doing right because we're seeing results that are helping people feel better. And not in some medicated way, it's in a natural way with your body, which
Hmm.
feels more aligned ultimately.
Yeah, which goes back to what you were saying, that when you were shoveling snow, you were feeling really good.
Yeah.
It's actually like, so this is one of the things that's incredible about what I do is when you get to move your body the way it's meant to, then it's like a stress relief.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
dude, when I'm pissed, shoveling snow is like the therapy for me.
Yeah.
I love winter
Yeah.
when I have anger issues
Uh,
because I go
yeah.
outside and I'll even like clean the driveway of my neighbor just to keep removing it because it does something. One, I feel like exercise just in general, when you're exercising, you're more present than ever. You're
Hmm.
not, you could be in your head, but at a certain point, even when I did a long runs of like 15, 20 Ks, at a certain point, you don't think about anything but the run because
Hmm.
you're just there and it's painful at times and it's hard. So you're really in the moment. Your body forces your brain to be here. And because of that, it feels like your breathing changes, your stress level goes down, your endorphins go up.
Yeah.
Like everything is just feeling fucking great. And then when you finish it, for some reason, the stress that you were experiencing right before that session of 2 hours of shoveling, it doesn't seem as bad.
Yeah.
Something mentally just, you know what? Okay, we'll figure it out. Go take a shower, go eat something because you're hungry now, and just fuck it. Tomorrow we'll figure this out, or tonight, like something pops up of how I'm gonna handle this situation, or maybe how I should tackle it, or whatever it is.
Hmm.
But I find there's something about doing some form of movement or exercise that just naturally brings clarity
Yeah.
to someone's stress day or just a lack of focus. There's a sense of clarity that happens. I don't know if it's just a scientific thing, but I know every time I'm in a shitty mood, I'll go do some sort of exercise and literally for 30 minutes minimum, and just like it just changes the whole outlook of the day.
Yeah, and I mean, there's like the meditative aspect of it, right? Like you're not like scrolling on Instagram
Yeah.
or thinking about your problems because you're shoveling snow and it's a difficult task, right? Like there has to be there has to be a challenge, I
Yeah.
find. Like, just going to the gym and doing bicep curls, like I've had this before where it's just like you're just thinking about your life problems and just
Monotonous.
doing, but yeah,
Yeah.
whereas like if I'm going for a run, that's a little bit more challenging than what I'm used to. Even if it's not, like I'll just go at a faster pace, and it's like, okay, like it's, you have to focus on it. It's kind of that like
Yeah.
yoga. What a lot of people, the reason why they love yoga is because of that. It's because you spend 1 hour and you have no choice but to focus on the task at hand.
It's so at the beginning, yoga or meditation, people they're not realizing, I think, because I love to meditate too, is the amount of energy it takes to meditate well. In a sense, it
Mm-hmm.
really drains you because every thought is hitting you with the silence.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend of mine that had told me this, and I think I mentioned this in another episode, is that he he's like, the one thing you need to do, don't stop the thought from coming.
Mm-hmm.
Accept the thought that comes in,
Yeah.
acknowledge it, put it in this little because his analogy is like put it in this little canoe and let it go down
Yeah.
let it go
Yeah.
down the
A
river.
hundred percent.
But you have to acknowledge it, because if you don't, it's always going to be there in the back of your mind, and you're never fully within the session to meditate or to relax, or you're trying to stop a thought when
Yeah.
this is not about stopping thoughts. This is about accepting the thoughts,
Yeah.
letting them flow and letting them flow out.
Yeah, letting go of control is one of the
Exactly.
things, because and that's like I also love to meditate, but also it's a huge part of my practice as well, a huge part of what I do with my clients as well. It's because, like, a lot of times people associate themselves or identify with the problems, right?
Yeah.
Like, so a thought comes and you're like, no, I don't want this thought, and that's you trying to control it.
Yeah.
But the best way to do it is with like the ultimate goal is to become the observer, right? Observer of the thoughts, observer of your body. Like instead of like identifying with that belly, like little belly that you got, you just become, oh, like I accept and I'm just gonna observe the emotions,
Yeah.
and that comes with pretty much anything. Like if you look at like your anger or at happiness, whatever feelings that you have, the like the observe being the observer helps you process it a lot better
Yeah.
than to identify with and say that I am that thought, I am sad or I'm mad or I'm whatever. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, no, I'm just observing myself go through this thing.
How did you get in? You were telling me that you were training as a fighter. Was that the introduction to meditation? Was in the training for fighting, or did that come after?
No, meditation actually came as I went through like a breakup, like hard breakup in my life, and
Never.
yeah.
Fucking breakups.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm happy I did because
Yeah.
it was like I was in a bad relationship and I had completely lost myself. Even with fighting, I had completely given it up, and it's like something that I love,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how old I'm gonna get, I'm gonna continue at least training for it. Um, but so there was at some point in my life, I was in a very, very low place in my life, and
How old were you?
I was 29.
Okay. How old are you now?
I'm 36.
Okay.
And so at that point, I decided that I need to I need to like find myself. I need to love myself, because I had just completely lost who I was. And through that, I was like, okay, what are some of the low hanging fruits, some of the things that I could do immediately to show myself some love,
Yeah.
And meditation came like, I don't know, I think I was just listening to a podcast or something, and it just like clicked. It was like, I could do that. I could do like 10 minutes a day,
Yeah.
and it's like, and that was the first thing. And in the beginning I had no idea what I was doing. I was just
Yeah.
following, but then now I'm kind of developing my own practice, which is not very different from everybody else. It's a matter of just that, trying to focus on sensations, whether it's my breathing or the sensations in my fingertips or whatever it is. And then I allow thoughts to come and go and just observe them and don't judge them.
Yeah.
Very, very basic, but I try to do it on a daily basis, and I find that whenever I don't, I kind of lose myself, a little bit. And it's always like, now my current partner, she always tells me like, if I'm all over the place, she's like, did you meditate?
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Dude,
I
when
haven't
if I
meditated
don't
in a
work
long
out, I'm
time.
an asshole.
Yeah.
I could feel it. Like
Yeah.
if I don't go for some sort of exercise, or I don't do something to just take some time for me, in a sense, that is literally just a benefit physically and mentally for me, of whether it's a meditation or whether it's a run of even 20, just something.
Mm.
There's a different tone in my voice. There's like a grogginess. There's a negative outlook for some reason on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have that same thing, but
100%. 100%.
dude, when I could tell you on a shitty day that I know that I did not probably do any sort of exercise or anything to just, I don't know, recognize the day for yourself. Like just a small part, like just for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
And when you were mentioning, that breakup at 29, similar, I had a huge one. I got divorced when I was like 31 or something.
Yeah.
And that was an eye opener, because I guess you assume that, things are going a certain way, and then you kind of fall in this weird coma state
Mm-hmm.
where you're there, you're doing stuff, but you're kind of like in and out of life. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of there physically, but mentally you've kind of checked out on a lot
Yeah.
of things. And then when the break happens, it's like a bit of a wake up call where you're like, oh, why the fuck am I going through this? I don't want to go through this. But then you're like, when you look back now, I'm like, thank God this happened. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was almost, I call it, for me, I know 2015 was like a rebirth for
Mm-hmm.
me, because it was like, I finally said, okay, what do I want to do? What do I
Yeah.
actually really want to do? You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
what the fuck is going on here? Why did I not waste, because we had a good relationship for a long time, but clearly something wasn't right for a while. and we were just holding on to something. And then it was time to move on, but it was weird. Like, how do you end this? But no one wants to say this. It's like this
Mm-hmm.
weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it happens, you're like, oh fuck, it's not the end of the world. One, and two, I'm still here. And so now what do I want to do? And then it's like clarity starts hitting, but in small doses. Like you had said, for me it was same thing. It was just even physically, I didn't like the way, like I even had my beard and I was like kind of, my hair was fucked up, and it's like, just shave your fucking head. Stop it with the half the time you're trying to save this thing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
little things, and then all those little wins started adding into this like level of confidence to come back into the world in a sense, like
Yeah.
you're like a baby again almost on certain
Yeah.
things. So I know for me that was, when they talk about breaking points or turning points in your life, that was definitely,
Yeah.
that was a turning point that ended up just throwing my life in a complete different trajectory, but fucking so much closer to the vision that I had
Mm-hmm.
from when I was younger. So it's funny. It's like you have clarity about who you are when you're young, you lose it along the way, and then all of a sudden you need a fucking slap in the face to kind of remember, like, hey, who are you again? You know?
Yeah, exactly. I had like for me it was a lot of devotion to like the other person's vision, the other
Yeah.
person, a lot of like, you kind of a lot of lies that I told myself
Yeah.
or I just accepted, and then you just kind of lose yourself. So you like, I was like, man, I haven't been boxing in 4 years, like,
Isn't
and
that
this is
fucking
something,
crazy?
and like I was like, holy shit, like I can't believe I spent 4 years not even thinking about boxing, like that was crazy to me. And it was like the first time I went back, I was like, I can't believe I was missing this.
A lot of people tell me that once they have that realization, the hard part is not going back. The hard part is not feeling like a loser that you didn't do this for 4 years.
Mm.
And then you kind of like, the sunken loss fallacy where you're already,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
already down 4 years not doing this. Fuck this. Maybe this is not for me anymore. Like,
Yeah.
so how did you, like, so you had said the meditation, was that kind of the reintroduction back into getting into this?
Yeah, and it was just I tend to not think like that. I don't somehow, probably because of my father. I like don't like to think that like it's over.
Okay.
Like that it's like I can't change, like this whole idea of like, oh, this is my condition now
Yeah.
and I can't do anything about it, is like it's something that I like literally I work with my clients because they're like, oh, they come to me with like scoliosis, right? Like, and they're like, oh, every doctor told me I need surgery and there's nothing I could do about it, right? And it's like, well, you can choose, you can accept that and then just go cry about it, or you can actually do something about
Yeah.
it.
Or at least try something to see if you
Exactly.
can do another option.
Exactly. So, with that, like, probably because of my father, I've had this thing of like not ever accepting that like it's going to be, this is just the way it is, and I'm just gonna become a victim to this
What'd your
condition.
dad do for a living?
My dad is an engineer, but what he was a political prisoner in Iran for 8 years, like tortured badly.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, yeah. Watched his brother be tortured in front of him. A lot of really messed up stuff.
Yeah.
But what came out of that was like this idea that like there's always hope, right? And like he was on death row, like he was supposed to be executed.
Holy
And
fuck.
yeah, so
Dude, I can't even imagine that feeling. Like, just thinking that you saying this story, and I can't imagine what someone must be going through in that moment.
yeah,
It's
and
fucked up.
but he's the most peaceful, happy person you'll ever meet, and
I read something that they say that a lot, where someone that has experienced, like World War II vets, or, prisoners of war and stuff like that, that the moment when they come out of it, because they were so close to experiencing death, like for real, not, I'm dying. No, no, like it could happen any day now, that the gratitude for life and the peace that you search for in life is all that matters. It's like there's a certain things like family, those core things that people kind of take for granted when they have everything.
mm-hmm.
That when you're at the brink of losing everything, including life, it's like, no, you remember, like, if I could have one more day, this is how I want to live. I want to live more peaceful. I want to just be with my family, like
Yeah.
simple things again.
Yeah, 100%. That's it happens to a lot of like recovering addicts as well.
Yeah.
They go, like, I have a client who used to be a heavy heroin user, and like he's being to the brink of death, and like his life has completely changed since then, you know.
Wow.
And like he appreciates every moment. Like his Instagram is just about him appreciating and he's not like, it's not all good, you know.
Yeah.
Life is never just all good, you know. There's ups and downs, but he manages to find those the find gratitude
Yeah.
one way or another. And that's the same thing with my dad, you know. Like when I was going through the breakup, like I was almost like embarrassed to be like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
it's
'cause
like
in the context of this, you're like, fuck. Yeah, let me shut the fuck up.
you
He's
know.
gonna slap me.
But at the end of the day, like you asked where that thing came from, was just, you know, it's like my whole purpose, like at some point, you know, probably a few months after the breakup, I was like, what am I doing with my life, you know?
Yeah.
Like just abusing my body, not taking care of myself. And I was like, okay, I need to change that. I need to show myself love. Okay, so what are some ways I can show myself love? And like, and yeah, standing in front of the mirror and saying I love you is one way, but then there's like, you know, actual
Yeah.
things,
Yeah,
actions.
it's not a bad thing to do that, but there has to be a follow up.
Yeah.
Because if you just say that, it's like empty words. You have to do something about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's not
Yeah.
a problem doing that, but it's just like, fuck. Okay. So
What's
what
next?
what do you want to do to show yourself that you actually love yourself? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like that's the next side of it, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I love going to the gym and fighting. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna get back into that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go back and I'm gonna train. For no, like usually people go to train to fight, and I get asked to fight all the time, but I don't want to. I don't want more. I only have a few brain cells left. I don't want to lose them.
Keep that shit.
Yeah. And then there is just I did that. I got back into meditation, and that was it. Like I think those are the main two things. And then I used to be a bartender, like, so I was part-time training people, part-time bartending, but I really didn't enjoy bartending.
Yeah.
So I quit that. I was like, okay, I'm gonna start my own thing. And you know, like it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be difficult, but I'm gonna do it. Um and that was another way of like just like showing myself that I trust myself, you
Yeah.
know, like betting on myself, really, you know. And instead of like going and working for somebody else, and you know, working a job that I didn't even enjoy, it's like, okay, I can actually take this time, bet on myself. And this is also sending myself a message, right? Like when I bet on myself, I'm telling myself that I believe in you, and all that self-love and all of that is happening without me actually having, I mean, I did spend some time in front of the mirror telling myself, don't get me wrong, but like, you know, like with the actionable things, it's like, okay, I'm gonna take this time, like this, my Friday nights, instead of going out, I'm gonna go to the gym, you know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go like hit the pads a little bit with the boys, and you know, pick up this sport and do that, and you know, do different things that I actually enjoy doing, because I had spent probably a better half of that relationship doing things that the other person enjoyed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was like, it's like, I'm gonna spend some time just, you know, taking risks for myself, doing all these things for my own dreams. And even if it doesn't work out, at least I know I'm doing stuff for myself. You know
And
what I mean?
you know, and I think too a big part of that, when you start doing things for yourself, you know, you're hearing all these voices in your head saying that it's not gonna work. You know, like it's not gonna work. And then you have these outside people that are like, come on, dude, the fuck, you know, and you don't realize like all these people are saying these things that are so easily, you know, you're so easy. A lot of people can be easily influenced to say maybe I'll go back to just doing the job or whatever, and all that stuff. But there's just this gnawing feeling inside too that says, nah, bro, like, fuck, there's more here. Like I want to do this, and then every time you surpass yourself in one of those original thoughts, you're like, holy fuck, I can't believe people actually hired me. You know, like it's like the weird thing, you know, like that first time you get a first client for something.
Yeah.
Or like I remember when I started the podcast, that the people that first came on the show, like my friends, like, oh, they took they were excited to be on the show. They were like, oh, this is gonna be cool. Like, oh yeah. I was like, holy fuck, okay, so I'm not a psychopath that somebody would actually want to tell
Yeah.
their story, you know?
Yeah.
So you start believing that there's something here, and then it starts building and then building. And like you said, it's just like layers of confidence back in
Yeah.
yourself.
A hundred
That
percent.
all these little things, we don't realize they compound.
Yeah.
Because now all of a sudden, if I would look back, 2 years ago from when I started this, so I'm assuming even for you, when you first got, if you told yourself, back then, this is where things will be, you would be like, no fucking way, bro. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't believe that, this would happen or these things would happen. And then you're kind of like, oh, fuck, like this is happening. Like you recognize that it's been a whole process, but ups and downs, but thank God I started this process.
Yeah. One day I was training a bunch of people in the park, and someone that I used to work with a long time before that comes up to me. This is just like during COVID. Comes up to me and he's like, dude, like we say hi, and he's like, do you remember one day at work you told me you want to train people in the park? And I was just like bartending, like I was like, it would be nice to train people in the park,
Yeah.
And it was just like, dude, I was like, holy shit, that's so true. Like I did say that, and it's now reality, and it's crazy because I have to remind myself that all the time. A lot of times you get caught up in like, I'm not where I want to be, or like, all these fake goals, or not goals, but like fake places that you set up in your head where as to where you should be.
Yeah.
But then you don't take a moment to look at what you have right now.
Yeah.
Like, I always forget, and then every once in a while I get a Google review or a testimonial, and it's like, oh shit, wow, I'm actually influencing people's lives the way I want. I'm helping people. Like one of the things that brings me satisfaction is to know that I'm being helpful.
I was about to say, what was, when you started this, the purpose of it? Because a lot of times the purpose gets lost once the business comes in. Purpose can get diverted because then you get stuck in accounting. You know what I mean? You get stuck in fucking bills. And, you get stuck in all these things that kind of sidetrack from the original purpose of the project.
Yeah.
When you look at this project that you had started, if you could look back now and ask yourself, why the fuck did I even start this? Do you remember what that feeling was or what those thoughts were?
Yeah. So basically, like I told you about my father. My father was a political prisoner, so he was like a freedom fighter, right? He was fighting against the government to like get rights, And so I had this, always growing up, I had this example of like, I need to do something for people, like my father gave all his life for the people. And I had this, like, I kind of took other people's way of what they thought. Like even my parents were like, you need to go become a lawyer, and I went to school and I got accepted to law school and everything, but it was like, that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
That's not how
difficult
myself.
Was that to tell your parents?
My dad to this day, I'm
Bro,
not
they're
joking.
gonna rip you.
My dad to this day, I'm 36 years old. He's like, when are you going to law school? I'm like, dude, it's not happening.
It doesn't matter whatever you do. Nothing is a job until the one that they had defined for you.
Right? But and like I have to like this. So my dad thought like me going to law school, I'm gonna become a human rights lawyer, and he had all these things for me, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm nothing against that, but it's just I didn't see that as, and like I had to take the time to like be like, what do I really want with my life? And then I realized, okay, I have this talent of training people. I connect with people, and I'm able to see movement the way like not a lot of people can, and so it's like, this is the way I can help people, and so it's like, maybe I'm not a lawyer, but I'm actually able to change people's lives.
I was about to say, it's like there's still the bottom line was contributing to society in a certain way. You know what I mean? Through physical. But fuck, dude, that pressure. I could imagine, like your dad having a specific point of view, and also on how he had, how he kind of designed his life in a sense of giving back. How difficult was it at the beginning because now you have that extra layer of pressure. There's the pressure of starting a business. There's the pressure of going into something like, but then I think people underestimate the pressure of a parent sometimes, which always has good intentions most of the time.
Yeah.
But it could be heavy on the child. Like for you going through that, what were some of the biggest things you were fighting against, trying to go down that road that was different from your parents?
Well, a lot of it just came down to like their vision of what they want me to do. But now they're supportive, and now they see that, and I always thought to myself that I'm gonna show, like, one day they'll see, and it's not quite there yet, but even now, like, I talk to my dad. Say for example, a person comes in and they've got like back problems and they can't even play with their kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you think about it, like that kid, yeah, I'm helping the father, right? But now, before he wasn't able to play with his kid, so his kid is deprived of play, and then
Yeah.
you don't know what's gonna happen to that kid
Yeah.
just
The
because
effect
of
of
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well,
And it's like, so you think about like, so I opened this up, I have to remind myself as well, but the challenge was basically like making it happen so that I could show them.
yeah.
Although now, though, I think of it completely differently, and it's like I don't like. It was always my father and my mother's approval was so important to me,
Yeah.
but now I'm realizing that that's like that's just my ego.
Well, it's so funny you say that because I think for a long time there's these things that drive us to a certain, like, not to a certain age, I guess to a certain level of maturity that has to kick in, where you're like, wait a minute, this is my life ultimately. Like I want my parents to be proud of me. Like my parents too have been disappointed in things that I've done or whatever, and in a time that was such a heavy burden, or to try to carry that. But then I started realizing, I'm like, my dad had his things and my mom has her things and I have my things. And we're not always going to agree to it. We're not always going to be on the same page, but I need to do what's right for me because you raised me, but the only person that really knows me is me. This is the
Hmm.
only person that really knows you. Like, cuz you always have some sort of, I wouldn't want to call it facade, but there's always something that is kind of, no one knows exactly what's going on in your mind because you're the only one that wakes up with your brain and all those thoughts,
Hmm. Hmm.
goes to bed, and there's shit in there that sometimes you're like, holy fuck, this is heavy, or I'm bringing it up. And then as you get older, you start realizing, I kind of like the meditation, I cannot stop these thoughts. I need to acknowledge them. I need to decide what I'm going to do with them, but I need to make a decision because that's actually the pain. The suffering is not making the decision on
Yeah.
the thoughts
Yeah.
versus saying I'm going to disappoint. No, no, no. Your thought about disappointing is the pain that you're feeling. It's
Yeah.
not the actual disappointment.
Yeah. 100%.
And then you build these crazy thoughts about how your parents are going to react to this, for a long time, or how am I going to do this if they're not supportive? And you make up a whole story when ultimately most parents, I would say most, they want you to be happy. That's probably the general thing, that they
Hmm.
want you to be happy. Now, they had a vision, it could be different, but they would probably rather see you doing what you love and being successful at that versus doing what they love and being somewhat successful or being miserable throughout the process.
Yeah.
And
100%.
then all of a sudden, they become your biggest fans.
Yeah.
I had a guest, Patty. She's a photographer, and her dad said a comment when she graduated. I don't remember what the comment was, like, basically, when are you gonna go get a real job? Something along those
Yeah.
lines. And I think even as now, even me being a parent, I probably don't realize maybe things that I do or say that will have this long impact on my daughter
Hmm.
without even me knowing it. And so when she had one of on the carry, there was a huge billboard with her photography work, for a model, and she did really, like, she has an amazing career in photography, and she did all these shoots and all these things. She brought her dad because she said, "Oh, that's it." She said something along the lines like, "One day I'm gonna have my work like on a billboard."
Hmm.
And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, whatever." And then years later, she brought him to the billboard, and he said, "That's the billboard that I did." And he's like, "Wow, congratulations!" He was so happy for her. And she's like, "You remember when you told me that?" He's like, "No, I don't even remember saying that." So it's like this had such a big meaning for her, but
But
maybe he was just having a bad day. Like, who the
yeah.
fuck knows what happened at the office, or
Yeah.
so you don't realize sometimes even those comments, we take them to heart, but maybe it was just a bad day. And when
Yeah.
you're young, you don't realize that, dad has a fucking shitty day too sometimes. We're
Yeah.
not always happy.
We don't always know the full truth. Like a lot of times, like we hear stuff, and it's like we don't ever know the full truth.
Yeah.
I've come to realize this through some hallucinogens, but
Tell me
like
more.
we don't ever know the full truth.
Yeah.
And when once you decide, like when you see something and you're like, oh, that's the way it was, and then your ego takes that and makes it like your identity.
Yeah.
And then like, but then you don't realize that there's other perspectives to everything, right?
Well, it's also where you are in that moment, right? Because let's say in a fight, as an example, if you get into a fight with someone and something happens and it turns into this fight, in that moment you understand why you have to get into this fight and all these things. But then as time goes by, you probably look back and you're like, oh, that I was already probably pissed about a few things that day. And it kind of happened there. And then this person that I never met before came in with God knows what on their mind. Who knows if someone passed away? Who knows if, they found out terrible news or they lost their job, or and then these two worlds are just hitting each other. So in that moment, the truth was this. But then all of a sudden, a year or two later, when you start analyzing who you were back then, you're like, oh man, the truth was is that I was in a bad place and I was looking for a fight, actually. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
truth, I find, changes as time goes by because
100%.
the point of view and the perspective of the moment changes because you're a different person. You can't,
Yeah.
if you're still that same person at 16, then that's another problem. You're 30 years old and you're still thinking like you were 16. There's also now a lack of growth
Yeah.
that has happened too, like that hasn't happened. So
Yeah.
I feel like all these things, like with our parents, or back to what you were saying, they're kind of like these building blocks though at the same time, like making you realize that giving back is important, but giving back the way I want to give back is the key. Not just giving back to make kind of like my girlfriend happy or to make my dad happy or to make someone I got to make me happy. I got to go to bed fucking feeling good at the end.
Yeah, and that's a big part because, I think ultimately the battle, um, inside your, like, ultimately what's going on in your head. You're the only person who can do something about it.
Yeah.
No one's gonna save you as much as they want to.
Yeah.
As much as my father or my mother wants to save me, they can't.
Yeah.
It's just impossible. And for me to, like, and by saving I mean, like, achieve my highest potential. The
Yeah.
only person who could do it is me, and the only way I can do it is pay attention to these be honest with myself, pay attention to the conversations that are going on in my brain, and then to actually take action.
Yeah.
My client always tells me, so in rehab they have this thing called HOW,
Okay.
which is honesty, open mindedness and willingness, for change.
Yeah.
How do you recover? Through honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And so that's something that I try to apply all the time. It's like, first I got to be honest with myself. Is this the path I want to take in life? And like, be honest with the thoughts that are going on in my brain, because a lot of times, the thoughts are telling you things. They're
Yeah.
telling you. It's like, a lot of times we fall into addiction or social, whether it's on drugs or social media
Yeah.
or whatever. It's it's like, why am I doing this? And it's like, oh, I'm just lazy. No, you're not just
No,
lazy.
there's layers of shit in there.
Yeah, there's something that's forcing you to be lazy because you don't want to face it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's the first thing. It's like, I got to be honest, and then open-minded. It's like, accept these things. You can't just be like, you can't say no, 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 it's not like that, it's not like that. And I hear that a lot,
Yeah.
especially as a trainer, because people come with a lot of baggage and a
Yeah.
lot of a lot of like they're conditioned to think a certain way,
Yeah.
whether it's because of their doctor telling them they're never going to be better, or the parents they're telling, whatever it is, society. There's all these different things that tell them you can't be better, and it's like, no, you got to be open to it. You got to
Yeah.
have that open mind to change, or else it's not going to happen.
Well, that's like I coach people, and I have people that come from professional standpoint, they're personal, and I had people that, oh, you can you help this person? I said I can help only someone that wants to call me and wants help. You give them my number, give them my contact info, but not you, them. They have to call.
Yeah.
They have to make that first step. If they're not open to having a conversation, to be honest about what's really going on, to be willing to have that conversation, kind of the same thing, and to be open about it, there can't be change.
Yeah.
There can't be change.
What do they say? You can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Yeah.
Exactly,
And
right?
I've had to drop clients because of this, because it's like,
Yeah.
we're not going to go anywhere, because you're just, the way you think of this is not getting us anywhere.
You're not here for you. You're here for someone else. And you can always tell. I remember when I used to teach music a long time ago, I always knew which parents were forcing their kids to bring them to guitar class with me versus the ones that wanted to be there. And all the ones that wanted to be there, most of them are still playing music today. and they're doing great things. You know what I mean today? Not that I'm the best, but it was just like you could see there was a passion that they came in prepared. They wanted to learn these songs. They wanted to learn the theory. There was a curiosity to it.
Yeah.
And all the parents that brought the kids that didn't want, like you could tell every week there was some bullshit reason why they didn't practice, or
Yeah.
you know, some they're a kid. You know what I mean? They were kids too, but you could tell the difference. Even in the kid, you could tell the difference between the person that wanted to be there and the person that was forced to be there.
Yeah. 100%.
You know, and looking at this now, man, like there's this amazing story of how you brought all this together. How did you say, okay, like I'm gonna turn this into something now that is, you know, for me, and I'm gonna create this, and I'm gonna start this project, and now that you're seeing it grow, where do you like, you know, we talk about visions. Do you have a certain vision for this, like that you want to bring it to, or it's in the process? Like I don't know, it depends on how you want to talk
Yeah,
about
I
it. But
definitely have a vision. I want to bring it worldwide, right? Like I don't want to just be in Montreal, and I also want to help, you know, create a community around this where, you know, you can be like, I have a few things that I want to do. I want to create centers
hmm
around the world, where, you know, you bring in all that we're talking about, because w- when you get in this field, you realize that it's the last thing it's actually about is like physical training.
exactly,
You know, like it's like first we've got to make sure that you're honest, open-minded, and willing. You know, like all these things are become before, you know, like you come in with pain, and if you don't think you're going to get out of pain, you're not going to get out of pain
yeah.
regardless of how many techniques I perform on you, you
You're
know.
looking for the problem. You're always gonna find a new problem. I mean, no
Exactly.
matter what comes to it.
Exactly. And so that's one of the things is like, I want to create a space where we address all of these things, the mental, the spiritual, and the physical all at once,
hmm
where people can come together and you know, exchange ideas, exchange like, you know, your work takes a certain type of commitment, a certain type of skill, you know, where you definitely have something to offer the world, right? And so do I, and so does the
Yeah.
next person. And if we're aligned on that, we can come together and, you know, and put together something for the rest of the community, you know, where the whole community can benefit from it. You know, I have, aside from physical practice, I have certain standards on nutrition, certain standards on lifestyle. That so basically, I want to create a center where all of these things come together.
Yeah.
You know,
And is that happening right now at the location in Griffintown?
um,
It's slowly
no,
piecing
right
itself.
now at Griffintown it's mostly like, you know, my private practice,
Okay.
but I want to bring it to a more public setting.
Yeah.
You know, where like think of a retreat where you can have farm to table food, you know, where you can have like a we work type space where you can go and do work. You can have a like your physical practice, you know, all of these combined in one place, you
It's
know.
amazing.
Yeah, like healthy food, um, you know, everything just top notch of like what I consider my standards. You know what I mean?
Isn't it I love hearing this, but it's also the thing that makes me think about is it's all things that we had and stopped doing. You know, when we think about it, like healthy food. Like I know it sounds like a fucking crazy thing to like. We're like, oh, we want a place where there's healthy food, but I mean, you know, when I think of my grandparents, like they always had a garden. Like there was always a lot of stuff from that. There was always this like straight natural food that was always there. You know, being outside
You're
and
Italian, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll give it away. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know, it's you see all these things that they did, and it's funny. I've said this before. I feel like for a lot of years we've been told that all these things were crazy. You know, like get the food as fast as possible. It's inconvenient to cook. It's like all these things that were just like natural things that was just part of life for thousands of years. And they kind of said, you know, like we'll take this problem away from, like it was a problem that was designed
Mm,
for us, and now we're going to take it away from you,
yeah.
so you don't have to think about these things.
Yeah.
But there's a pleasure in prepping food.
Yeah.
There's a pleasure in eating with people that are kind of like in your tribe. You know, I look at now family, like when I was younger, I was like, oh, what a burden. You know, like burden of like kids and like what all this shit. And now it's the opposite. It's like, dude, burden. This is the least burden ever in your life.
Yeah.
For me now, like everyone has their different point of view, but sitting at the table having supper, and I see my daughter now growing, and she's sitting at her own place, and my girlfriend, we're eating and we're talking at the table.
Yeah, it's fulfilling.
It's, to be honest, it's the best part of the day. It's
Yeah.
one of the best parts of the day of like making food, and she's just there and she watches us and she pretends like she's cutting and doing all these things that were just natural, kind of the same way like your workouts. And the concept of this is that you're bringing it back to your body in its natural state and how it needs to perform and the things that matter from a holistic perspective, from top to
Exactly.
bottom, from food, your spiritual side of it, you know, the physical side of it, which just seems so like common sense. You know what I mean? But for
Yeah.
some reason nowadays we're so inundated with so much garbage that we don't realize how,
Well,
you
it's
know, like
also,
how insane this has become, where we have to think that this is the weird thing, like to be open to eating good food, you
yeah.
know, exercise, meditate. It's like
Yeah.
open to what was always there in a sense.
I get like so many people are like, "Oh, what, Ali, what, like, is this healthy enough
You
for you?"
fucking
And
stoner, bro.
yeah.
You fucking stoner. You know, it's like, no, dude, this is natural. Like, it's
Yeah.
actually the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and but the thing is, a lot of times people are just I don't know if they're actually like overwhelmed with stuff, or just they're overwhelmed with bullshit. You know, we like, considering how much time we spend on social media, if we
Yeah.
took out that time and like spend it like cooking,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, but it's almost like people don't realize this.
Yeah.
You
Because
you
it's
tell
in
them,
small,
go on your
it's in
phone
small
and see how
doses
much
of
time
20
you
minutes, 20 minutes
Yeah.
here, 20 minutes there. And all of a sudden you're like, fuck, I was on my phone for 4 hours today.
Yeah, it's like, go on your phone and check out how much time you spend on social media, and it's like, holy shit, I fucking and it, the best. One of my friends told me that like if he continues this way, he had some way of calculating it. Where if he continues on his social media like this, he will have spent like something like 30 years on
Yeah.
it by the end of his life. You
When
know?
you start looking at things, I find in that format, if you don't realize how insane it is, then there's just you're choosing not to look at that the
Yeah.
data. And I know for me that was certain things I changed. Like I remember when I stopped smoking a long time ago, and I thought about how much I smoked. Like it hit me at one point. I remember when it finally hit. I said, I'm smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day for 10 years now. This is fucking like, if I continue
That's heavy
on,
duty.
that's heavy duty. They used to joke around, call me chimney cricket, because I used to literally light cigarettes with the cigarette I was finishing. I used to have an ashtray next to my bed. I can't even believe this now. It's
Wow.
I stopped smoking in 2011.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's
Good for
like,
you, man.
yeah, dude. And I smoked for like 15 years, and 10 of those years were like 2 packs a day, every day, consistent. And what I realized was like part of my identity, was part of everything. It's like, oh, how am I gonna lose my friend? It's like all these weird, stupid stories we tell ourselves with smoking. And then something hit, like I was reading a book, it helped. But then there was also this idea of, if I continue down this path, like your friend did, and say, if I continue for 20 more years, I would have smoked, I think, millions of cigarettes. Like the amount. And then I just thought to myself, of course I'm gonna get sick. Of course I'm gonna die if I do this. Like, I am literally putting over 1 million cigarettes in my body for the next 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
This is fucking insane. And then it was like, once you see it from that sense, and you know how insane it sounds, if you go through it, you've just accepted that now. It's different. But in general, it does have a certain kind of like a slap in the face moment of, okay, so what's my decision? Am I going down this road or not? Because if I am, this is what I've agreed to. This is the truth, you know?
Yeah, and like I think that actually is very, like, if you say, for example, you know what it's gonna do to
Fucking,
you.
they say you never know what happens.
Yeah.
There's renovations.
So say, for example, you just said, oh, I'm gonna have smoked and for sure I'm gonna get sick, but then you accept that and you continue smoking, the smokes are going to be that much worse for you, because you're, every time you have a cigarette, you're telling yourself, I'm going to get sick. I'm going to get sick.
Exactly.
I'm going to get sick.
You're actually doubling down on it mentally and physically now.
Yeah.
So you've lost on both sides at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, man, I really like the story behind all this. And one, I can't believe your dog literally did not make one sound throughout the whole thing. Like, he's been the chillest dog ever.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that you're sharing this story. And there's so many good things in this here, you know, like about how it came to be and everything. And I know we're getting towards the end of this too. Like, how do you want to end this conversation? What do you think is the way you want people to remember you for after this conversation?
Um, I just want people. I just want to inspire people to love themselves. To take care of themselves, to not give into their conditions, to not accept whatever their condition is as the end, and to know that anything is possible. Anything you set your mind to is possible. And I've seen it with my clients, I've seen it with myself. There's a lot of things that you're told it's never going to change, but then you go and do it, and it's all possible. So I just want everyone to take a moment to really figure out how to love themselves, you know, how to show themselves love, and how to not accept their own conditions.
That's amazing, dude. Like,
Yeah.
man, I learned a lot. What I love about doing this is that in the process, hearing someone's story, to me, it's also inspiring on my end. So I love hearing the story from someone. It reminds me that we're very similar. A lot of people were all in the same boat of trying to find something in ourselves to really bring out the best in us. I feel like that. I feel like that is something human in
Yeah.
general. And the fact that you came here, took the time to talk about it, being open about certain things maybe that you didn't expect to talk about, who knows. But I appreciate the fact that you came here today. I appreciate the fact that you told us a story. And before I kind of close it up, is there any way where if people want to follow you or connect with you, what would be the best ways for them to do that?
Yeah, my Instagram is, I'm only active on Instagram. It's movemental. It's MUVE mental, and my company is called Sapien Evolution Temple. We also have an Instagram separate for that.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, look, everybody that's watching, I hope you enjoyed your time with Ali here and myself. I think we had a great conversation about just the journeys through life, the ups and downs, and also where sometimes you don't realize where it's going to take you. I'm sure there's a lot more that we could even get into, and maybe we'll come back in the future again and see how things are going with all these centers. But all the links, everything we're talking about is going to be in the description. Links to Ali's socials, as well as any ways to connect with him will all be there. And I just want to say thanks for watching, whoever is watching. And if you want, follow the show, subscribe. We're also on Instagram as well at the DMW Podcast. And thank you, Ali,
Thank
for
you,
being
man.
here, man.
Thanks for
I really
having me.
appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Same.
And that's it.
Perfect.
That's it, man. Dude, that was fucking great, man.
Yes. Honestly, that was great.
Great story.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Your dog, dude, fucking
Yeah.
chill. He didn't make one sound.
He's Italian too.
Is it?
Luigi is his name.
We gotta show Luigi here on the camera. Put him up. Luigi. There we go. We got Luigi there. Awesome, man. Dude, that was great.